All right, I wasn't able to find anything for the Sprinter as far as how to redo the rear brakes when it had an electric parking brake. There were a few other Mercedes vehicle videos, but I figured I put together what I knew. So if anybody was looking for this, they would find this specific video. So first thing you got to do is get in the vehicle, keep your foot off the brake, make sure the doors are closed, make sure your hood is closed. So everything is closed here. The first thing we have to do is we have to actually take off the parking brake to begin with. So we need to cycle on the ignition, reach down. I don't know if you guys could hear it, but the parking brake did go off. I'm going to cycle the ignition back off. One push on puts me into what I would call the accessory mode. We're going to push on the home button for about 2 seconds. While still holding the home button, we're going to push the square button briefly here. 1, 2. So that gave us this menu here. We're going to scroll down to brake pad replacement, select it. So it says to move to fitting position. We're going to select OK again. So again, I don't know if you guys could hear it, but I could hear the parking brake doing its thing back there, moving to fitting position. So what we're going to do then is we're going to exit the vehicle. We're going to replace those pads. We'll get back in. At that point, the ignition will most likely have turned itself off. As soon as we cycle the ignition on, it's going to give us a message wanting us to hit OK, to then move the pistons back to the fitted position, the correct position. So that's what you guys do. I hope this helps. All right, so the second part of this video, I'm at work today, so it took me a while to get the brakes done. It's now dark, but got back in the vehicle. I was expecting it to initially tell me this message, which on the first push of the ignition button, it did not. It's flashing the parking brake light at me, and it told me that the brakes needed to be serviced, or there was some sort of message there. I hit the ignition button, the start button a second time, went into ignition, and now this is the message that I'm seeing, which is the same message when I left the vehicle. So it's been, I'd say, probably 5 hours total since I started. Took me probably 30 to 45 minutes on the driver's side, and then probably about 20 minutes on the passenger side. It went pretty quick, but let's see what happens. Gonna hit OK. So it says caution, exiting fitting position. I heard the parking brake activate back there. We're gonna hit OK. So now it takes me back to this menu, which I assume at this point I'm just gonna exit out of by hitting the back button. Go back over to trip, and here we are. So don't have any warning lights on the dash anymore. It doesn't show that the parking brake is actually on, which is interesting. Let's see what happens when I put it on. Okay, so just hit the button, and there we go. So parking brake is now set. Heard it set. Let's see if I can release it. It wants me to switch the ignition on one more time. So parking brake off. Parking brake back on. Okay. So it doesn't appear to be any error messages, and hopefully that helps you guys. All right, a couple things different with this brake job than what I found online. First, with the caliper, with the 2 bolts, one up top and one down below, that hold the caliper to the bracket. Everything I found online with the older generation was that these were going to be 13 millimeter hex bolts. These ended up being the 6 mil Allen socket bolts, like I expect to find on the front. That's been on, I guess, the past few generations. Secondly, when I went to order the brake sensors, I was told to order 2 front, 2 rear, but on this, this is the right rear. There is no sensor on this. There was definitely a sensor on the driver's side, on the left rear. I'm assuming there's also one on the left front. But so it appears that two sensors are needed. One of the other things that helped out had this little bleeder bottle. It actually has a one-way valve on the inside. Hose comes off, connects to your bleeder port that's here. When I was pushing the pistons back, there was plenty of room to get a screwdriver between the rotor and the pad. Not between the rotor and the piston, don't touch the piston, but between the rotor and the pad. And crack the bleeder screw open with the bottle on it. That piston was easily able to compress back, and then that way I didn't have to do anything with it when I pulled it apart. But it's all buttoned up, ready to go, and hopefully it helps.